Did you know that if someone passed away today, they might be brought back to life many years from now? In a facility just outside Phoenix, Arizona, more than 200 individuals are waiting to be revived. Their families paid hundreds of thousands of dollars because they believed science would bring them back. Even more remarkably, progress in this field is moving faster than many experts expected. What you're about to discover could transform the way you understand the very concept of life and its continuation. Most people don't realize that when doctors declare someone legally dead, the body isn't instantly without life. Decades ago, if a person had a heart attack and stopped breathing, a doctor might check for a pulse, find nothing, and make a final declaration. Today, however, with CPR, defibrillators, and modern emergency techniques, people are often revived, showing how our understanding of death has evolved. Cryonics researchers build on this idea. They argue that what we call death today reflects the boundaries of current medical technology. When someone is declared clinically dead, most of their cells remain active, which is why organs stay viable for hours. Brain cells, heart cells, and liver cells can continue functioning well past the clinical moment. Dr. Max Moore from the Alcor Life Extension Foundation explains that instead of giving up, the goal is to protect those cells by cooling the body to extremely low temperatures, so future advancements may restore the person. A century ago, sending humans to the moon seemed unrealistic, yet it eventually happened. Cryonics takes a similar path, extending emergency medicine to new frontiers. The crucial step occurs around -130 degrees Celsius, where biological processes nearly halt. There's no aging, no decomposition, and minimal cellular change, essentially a pause. And this isn't only theoretical. Thousands of individuals are already preserved in cryonic facilities worldwide, awaiting future scientific breakthroughs. Now let me show you exactly how this process works, because it's far more sophisticated than most people realize. When someone signed up for cryonics is about to die, a specialized team deploys like a military operation. Many of these medics are actually former Navy SEALs, and they have about a 2-hour window to deploy anywhere in the world. The teams carry specialized equipment that doesn't exist anywhere else in the world. They're racing against the clock because every minute that passes after death reduces the chances of successful preservation. Once on site, the team works quickly but methodically, managing the transition from time to temperature with extreme care. Their goal is to avoid any sudden drops, such as a rapid 50-degree plunge that could damage delicate cellular structures. All of this leads to a crucial stage, preparing the body for the antifreeze agent, a costly and still experimental chemical known as a cryoprotectant. This substance, which they note is not widely available elsewhere, is used to replace the blood and help prevent the cells from freezing during long-term preservation. However, they can't start the process until doctors officially declare legal death. The moment that happens, they lift the patient into an ice bath, covering them with ice and circulating icy water around the body to accelerate cooling. The next step, they access the major blood vessels of the heart and connect them to a specialized pump and chiller system. This is where they introduce the cryoprotectant, which is basically medical-grade antifreeze. As the body temperature drops below freezing, instead of ice crystals forming and destroying the cells, this cryoprotectant becomes thicker and thicker, essentially holding all the cells in place without any damage. It's like turning the body into biological glass. Around half of the members at Alcor choose to preserve only the brain, and this includes the speaker. They explain that by the time the process is needed, the rest of the body may not be in good shape and would need to be rebuilt. The method is almost the same as whole body preservation, except the separation happens a few bones lower in the neck. The brain and skull, known as the cephalon, are placed upside down in a support ring, and the carotid vessels are used to move the cryoprotectant. When the procedure goes as planned, the brain becomes slightly smaller as water is removed, and no ice forms inside the tissue. Not every case reaches this ideal result, and outcomes are different for each patient. Millions of people alive today were cryopreserved as embryos, and many tissues such as skin, corneas, heart valves, eggs, and sperm can be stored and later restored. When the work in the operating room is done, the patients are wrapped in a sleeping bag and secured inside aluminum pods. Each container can hold several whole-body patients and up to 5 brain-only patients in the center section. These containers act like large insulated flasks. If the power fails, the temperature stays the same, since no electricity is needed to keep it stable. The team only needs to refill the liquid nitrogen once a week to maintain the cold environment. At the Alcor facility in Arizona, there are approximately 200 patients from all walks of life, different ages, circumstances, and nationalities from around the world. Some are convinced the technology will work, others are more skeptical but still want to preserve their brains because the facility conducts ongoing research, scanning, and studying how it all functions. You'll hear occasional hissing noises in these facilities. That's just liquid nitrogen diffusing off the tanks, which is completely normal. They even preserve small animals for research purposes, including some rare, near-extinct chinchillas. And if you've made it this far, it means you really care. Don't just stop at the like button. Hit that hype when you watch on your phone too. It only takes a few seconds, but it helps this video reach way more people. And now continue. This story about the scientists does not end here, because another key detail is linked to cryopreservation. In fact, there are two possible ways a person might return to life using this method. The first approach is the one most people already know. Once a cure for the person's illness is found, doctors would treat the disease and then bring back the individual who was preserved. In this method, the whole body remains stored. The second approach is different. Instead of keeping the entire body, only the head is preserved. The head is separated and saved until scientists discover how to connect it to another body. The thought of this can feel strange, and it raises the question of whether a human head could ever truly be joined to a new body. However, if it becomes achievable, it could be conducive for older people, giving them the possibility of living again with a healthier and younger body. Now you're probably wondering about the cost, because this isn't exactly accessible to everyone. Full-body cryopreservation can cost over $200,000, with some facilities charging up to $300,000. Brain-only preservation is typically around $80,000 to $150,000. So they're not necessarily ultra-wealthy, they're just planning ahead. The membership tends to be highly educated, because it takes knowledge to understand the process. But more importantly, these people have a sense of adventure. What cryonics facilities are asking people to participate in is essentially a gigantic experiment. If it works, you're going to come back decades, or maybe a century from now, and the world will be completely different. Most people find that terrifying, but some find it exciting. The member list includes some famous names. Paris Hilton has reportedly signed up, so have various businessmen, models and actors. In Australia alone, 50 people, from doctors to bus drivers, ranging from their 30s to their 80s, have paid $150,000 to secure their spot. A story that shows both the hope and heartbreak of cryonics. Kim was just 23 years old, a brilliant neuroscience student with her whole life ahead of her. When doctors delivered devastating news, she had brain cancer and only 2 years to live. But Kim wasn't ready to give up. She told her boyfriend Josh, "It's not that I'm scared of dying, but I don't want to die knowing that I could have done something more." For Josh, the memories of that diagnosis remain incredibly raw even today. It was like a pretty big shock. They basically told her she was going to die in 2 years. We discussed cryonics pretty immediately, just because it was something we had already established throughout college. But at that point, it's just theoretical, right? You're not thinking you're going to die. But Kim was dying, and cryopreservation is expensive. The Alcor facility charges up to $300,000, money that a young college student simply didn't have. So Kim did something remarkable. She turned to the internet to crowdfund her preservation. I can't say it enough how thankful I am for everybody who's given to me so far. I'm totally shocked by the response that I've had from both my friends, my family, and the Reddit community, she shared in one of her final interviews. The internet responded. Thousands of strangers donated money to give Kim a chance at a future life. Less than 2 years later, in 2013, Kim and Josh made their final journey together to the cryonics facility in Arizona. She declined really rapidly, so I was scared. I got really scared that she was going to die before we got there. It was really good to get here and to be here. It was like the last leg of a horrible journey, Josh recalled. When asked if he felt safe having the team and plan in place, Josh responded, "Right," and she was going to be able to do what she wanted. Kim received her dying wish. She was suspended in liquid nitrogen for an unknown span of time. But here's the reality check. 11 years after her death, the science of cryonics remains unproven. No one has been revived yet, and there is still no evidence that it can be done. Now, let's tell another story that shows a different side of cryonics. Alan Pease and his wife Barbara Pease from Australia have been married for 35 years. They've decided that till death do us part simply isn't long enough. They want their love story to continue into eternity. When asked if they just don't want this life to end, they responded simply, "No." Alan added, "Well, reality is it will. but there'll be the next life, whatever that may be. And it's the unknown to a large extent because we don't really know what it'll be. For Alan and Barbara, a conventional burial would prevent them from discovering that unknown future. So they've signed up to be cryopreserved at Australia's first ever cryonics facility. They've got the technology to put us in, but they haven't quite figured out how to bring us out yet. And there's always a risk, but the alternative is eternal blackness. I mean, this is not an alternative for us, Alan explained. They've made a deal to stay together. When we come back, the deal is when they unfreeze us, when they've finally worked out how to do it, which we don't know when that'll be. 20 years best hope, 60, 70, 80 years. But the deal is if one of us doesn't unfreeze properly, they'll pull the plug on the other. Because neither of us wants to really do it on our own. I mean, I don't want to come back without her, Barbara added softly. I don't want to come back without him. Think about that level of commitment. They're willing to bet their afterlife on being together. Would you ever consider choosing cryonics if it meant you and your partner could stay together in a future life? Let's discuss in the comments section. This technology isn't just limited to the United States. Research is happening all over the world, and some countries are making remarkable progress. Russian scientists are actually leading the charge in certain areas, even surpassing American research in some aspects. Most Russian scientists are working on technology that could revive a dead person within 10 minutes of death. You might wonder how this is possible. A person's brain remains alive for up to 10 minutes after their heart stops beating. Russian researchers are focusing on this critical window to develop revival technology. The approach is different from long-term cryonic preservation. Instead of freezing bodies for decades, they're working on immediate revival techniques that could work within that 10-minute window when the brain is still viable. This could revolutionize emergency medicine and save millions of lives every year. But there's a crucial limitation. This technology can only work on people who haven't experienced brain death. Let's explain the difference because it's critical to understanding the future of revival technology. There are actually two types of death, and understanding this difference is crucial for grasping the potential of revival technology. The first is biological death, which is what most people think of as normal death. In biological death, the heartbeat stops, and gradually all the organs of the body stop working. But the brain can remain alive for several minutes after the heart stops. The second type is brain death, and this is where things get complicated. In brain death, the brain stops functioning completely, even though other organs like the liver, kidney, and heart might continue working with life support. Brain death is considered irreversible because consciousness has died forever. Even the most advanced revival technology cannot help in cases of true brain death. This distinction is why timing is so critical in cryonics. The goal is to begin preservation before brain death occurs, while the brain cells are still viable. That's why cryonics teams race against time, and why they restart circulation and breathing even after legal death is declared. The preservation process is essentially buying time, keeping the brain in a state where future technology might be able to repair whatever caused the death in the first place, whether that's cancer, heart disease, or aging itself. So when might we see the first successful human revival? The predictions vary widely, but most experts in the field believe we're looking at 20 to 50 years for the first attempts. Some optimistic researchers think we might see limited success by 2040, while more conservative estimates push it to 2070 or beyond. The technology required for revival will likely involve several breakthrough areas. First, we'll need to perfect the preservation process to eliminate all cellular damage. Second, we'll need advanced nanotechnology to repair any damage that does occur during preservation and storage. Third, we'll need to solve whatever medical condition caused the person's death in the first place. This might sound impossible, but consider how much medical technology has advanced in just the past 50 years. We've gone from the first heart transplant to routine organ replacement, from basic chemotherapy to targeted cancer treatments, from no treatment for HIV to making it a manageable condition. The rate of medical advancement is accelerating. Gene therapy, stem cell research, artificial organs, and nanotechnology are all progressing rapidly. Many of the diseases that kill people today might be easily curable by the time revival technology becomes available. But there's another factor to consider. Even if we can revive people, what kind of world will they wake up to? Climate change, technological disruption, and social changes, all of these could make the future very different from today. Some people find this exciting. Others find it terrifying. Not everyone believes in cryonics, and the criticism is fierce. Many mainstream scientists consider it nothing more than an expensive form of wishful thinking. The critics raise several valid points. First, no complex organism has ever been successfully cryopreserved and revived. While we can preserve simple tissues and embryos, scaling up to whole organs, let alone whole bodies, presents enormous challenges that may be insurmountable. Second, the damage from the dying process itself may be irreversible. By the time someone is legally dead, their brain has already suffered from oxygen deprivation, toxin buildup, and cellular damage. Even perfect preservation might not be able to undo this damage. Third, there's the information-theoretic death argument. Some scientists argue that the pattern of information that makes you you is destroyed during the dying process, regardless of how well the physical structure is preserved. It's like asking whether a computer that's been completely reformatted can ever recover its original data, even if the hardware is repaired. But perhaps the most practical criticism is economic. Cryonics facilities are businesses that need to remain profitable for decades or centuries. What happens if they go bankrupt? What happens during wars, natural disasters, or social collapse? Several cryonics facilities have already failed over the years, and their patients were lost. The Chatsworth disaster in 1979 is a cautionary tale. The Cryonics Society of California ran out of money and couldn't maintain its facility. When authorities investigated, they found decomposed bodies that had been thawed for months. Families who thought their loved ones were safely preserved discovered they had been left to rot. Success in cryonics would create ethical dilemmas that humanity has never faced before. The impact on younger generations could be profound. If older people can be revived and continue living indefinitely, when do younger people get their chance to lead? How do you have social progress if the same people remain in power for centuries? There are also questions about enhancement. If we develop the technology to repair bodies for revival, should we also enhance them? Should revived people get improved intelligence, strength, or longevity? Where do we draw the line between repair and enhancement? The legal system would need a complete overhaul. Current laws assume that death is permanent. Property rights, inheritance, marriage, and criminal justice would all need to be reconsidered if death becomes reversible. The truth is, nobody knows for certain. The people lying in those liquid nitrogen tanks in Arizona might be the first pioneers of human immortality, or they might be the victims of an elaborate false promise. What we do know is that science is advancing, the technology is improving, and more people are willing to bet their lives on the possibility. What do you think? Do you think cryonics will eventually work, or is it just an expensive way to avoid accepting death? Would you consider signing up for cryonic preservation if you could afford it? And what do you think the world would look like if death became optional? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment and I'm genuinely curious about your perspective on this. Also, if you found this deep dive into cryonics fascinating, make sure you're subscribed because next week I'm exploring another mind-bending scientific breakthrough that could change everything we know about human consciousness. Thanks for joining me on this journey into the future of death and revival. Until next time, keep questioning everything.
Thanks for being with us. Leave a comment, like to show your support, and remember to hit that subscribe button for more exciting videos. See you next time.